Please, human, make my mom smile again. Be her husband, said the tear-streaked alien girl.
The sky above the Rye 4 was gray and bloated with storm humidity, a low smog of chemical mist clinging to the skeletal remains of once promising infrastructure. The colony had been sold as a terraforming marvel: rich soil, engineered rainfall, controlled humidity. But the corporate backers pulled out when the climate control systems began to fail. What was left became a husk, a damp, rotting exile zone filled with scavengers, syndicate men, and those too stubborn or broken to leave. Aaron Vale had come here 5 years ago, not because he was chasing a future, but because he was running from one. Once a restoration botanist working for the Frontier Agricultural Corps, he had watched entire biomes get stripped for profit, turned into controlled dust bowls and synthetic farms. After a classified failure on IREX, 3 that cost lives, something he never spoke of, he left everything. The uniform, the chain of command, even his family. Now he lived on the rooftop of an abandoned residential tower, alone among broken glass, algae-choked gutters, and silent gardens. He had no mission beyond this: repair what could grow, keep himself out of others' business. Don't get attached. That was the rule. And then came the knock. It was barely audible at first. 3 soft taps on the metal access door, spaced far enough apart to sound uncertain. Aaron didn't move right away. He sat on a low bench beside a half-repaired aquaponics rig, hands buried in the moist soil of a planter bed. The fans overhead buzzed faintly. Below, on the street level, distant voices echoed. Arguments, trades, the occasional burst of laughter twisted by bitterness. Another knock. A pause. Then a voice. "Please, human." Aaron straightened. The voice was small. Not a scavenger. Not a syndicate runner. He crossed the greenhouse slowly, barefoot on the rough stone tiles, the cold clinging to his soles. He hesitated at the door, hand resting on the latch. He didn't like visitors. Didn't trust anyone who made it this far up the access towers. But something in that voice wasn't bargaining. It was pleading. He opened the door. The girl standing there couldn't have been more than 5 years old. Barefoot, shoulders hunched from the wind. Her skin was a dull violet gray, and her hair, cropped short and uneven, was matted against her forehead with sweat and dirt. In her hands, she clutched a chunk of stale bread, holding it like it might be taken from her. Her voice cracked. "My mom, she doesn't laugh anymore." Aaron blinked. He opened the door wider, but said nothing. The girl sniffed. Her eyes were wide and wet, glinting under the yellow emergency lamp above the door. "Could you be her husband?" she asked, her voice small, barely a whisper. Maybe that would make her smile. The breath caught in Aaron's chest. He looked past the girl. Standing 10 meters back in the stairwell shadows, leaning against a rusted support beam, was a woman. Celia. That name wouldn't come until later. She stood tall, over 6 feet, unmoving except for her steady, slow breathing. Her ash-colored skin looked almost gray in the dim light, and her long violet hair was pulled back in a rough knot. She wore a makeshift outfit that might once have been formal. A torn bandeau wrapped tightly across her chest, and a low, fraying cloth skirt hanging from her hips. Slits ran up both sides for mobility, not style. The fabric was stained, uneven, and weather-worn. Her arms were bare, except for a faded strip of cloth tied around her left forearm. She carried no bag, no supplies. Her feet were bare and blistered. She didn't speak. She didn't plead. She just watched. Aaron's heart was pounding, and he didn't like that. He wasn't good with people. And this, whatever this was going to be complicated. Still, something about the girl's face, the way her words hung between desperation and hope, made it impossible to shut the door. He stepped back. The child moved hesitantly, entering with small, deliberate steps. Her thin arms trembled beneath the oversized thermal scarf wrapped around her shoulders. Celia followed after a long pause, her gait silent but alert. She didn't look around. She didn't sit. She just stood in the far corner of the greenhouse, her back near the heating pipe, her body angled protectively toward the child. "I don't trade," Aaron said firmly, closing the door behind them. His voice came out rougher than he intended. "If you're here looking for credits, food exchange, or syndicate favors." "We're not," the woman said. Her voice was quiet, controlled, but there was an edge under it like glass beneath water. Aaron caught a flicker in her expression. Fatigue, mistrust, maybe even pain. The girl turned to face the rows of vertical planters along the wall. "You grow stuff," she said, almost in awe. "It smells like clean things." Aaron rubbed a hand over his jaw. "Food, mostly. Do you make it grow?" He hesitated. "Yeah, I try." She gave a small nod, then wrapped the scarf tighter around herself and settled down near one of the heating vents. Aaron moved to the side wall, pulled a folded thermal blanket from a bin, and placed it beside her. The girl crawled under it without hesitation, curling up like she hadn't slept properly in days. Celia remained standing. "You can sit," Aaron said quietly. She gave a slow shake of her head. "Standing is easier." Her voice was flat, but not defiant. He noticed the way her hands were held low, fingertips slightly curled inward, not out of readiness, but habit. Her muscles were tense, but not in an aggressive way. It was defense. She was bracing herself, expecting this small bit of safety to be a trap. He hated that. "You hungry?" he asked. "I ate." He pointed toward the girl. She didn't. "I gave her my share." Aaron paused, then stepped back to his bench, scooped a few sliced roots and thermal grains from a storage pouch, and walked them to her in a steaming cloth bundle. She accepted it with both hands and a faint nod. Her fingers brushed his. They were cold, thinner than they should have been. "I'm Aaron," he said. The woman studied him. "Celia." He nodded once and turned back to his work. Watering the trays gave him something to do. The silence hung thick in the air, but not uncomfortably. Outside, the storm thickened. The wind moaned through broken ventilation shafts. Celia eventually sat, not on the bench, but on the floor beside the heat pipe. She pulled the blanket closer over her legs, then adjusted it around her chest. One strap of the bandeau slid down her shoulder. She left it. Aaron saw the faint scarring across her clavicle. Old, but not forgotten. She spoke without looking at him. "We've been on the lower levels. Hiding. Moving." He glanced over. "From what?" She didn't answer. The implication didn't need to be said. Ilari stirred beneath her blanket. Her eyes fluttered open, and she whispered, "Mama used to sing. When it was safe." Aaron felt a cold knot tighten in his chest. He sat in silence as night deepened. Celia barely moved. Ilari eventually fell back asleep. The heaters hummed softly, casting a pale glow across the greenhouse. That night, he lay on his own bedroll with his eyes open for a long time. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't have a plan, but something had shifted, and for the first time in years, he wasn't sure he wanted to be alone anymore. By morning, the storm had passed. Thin sunlight filtered through the streaked greenhouse glass, casting pale beams across the planter rows. Condensation clung to every surface. Outside, the ruined skyline of the rye, steamed in the humid air, towers hunched like forgotten bones. Aaron rose early, as always. He moved quietly, careful not to wake the two shapes curled in the corner. The little girl, Ilari, had kicked off most of the blanket in her sleep. Her arm rested across her face. Celia lay beside her, not touching, but close enough to block wind from the broken vent near the floor. She hadn't used the second blanket. She didn't seem to sleep at all. Aaron boiled water, poured 2 mugs. One he drank. The other, he set down on the crate near Celia's side. She didn't move for a while. Then her eyes opened, sharp, aware. She glanced at the mug, lifted it, sniffed. "It's just water," Aaron said. "I wasn't checking for poison," she replied, sipping. "I was checking if it was warm." He nodded, folded his arms, and leaned against the hydro barrel. "You didn't sleep." "I don't sleep where I can't see the exit." "That's smart," he said. "It's necessary." Ilari stirred, sat up groggily, her curls sticking up in wild tufts. "Mama, there's plants. And it's warm." Celia ran a hand over her daughter's hair and said nothing. Aaron knelt near a rack of stored produce. He removed a soft fruit loaf and split it 3 ways. He handed a piece to Ilari, who tore into it hungrily. Another to Cilia. She hesitated again, then accepted it, holding it delicately like something borrowed. He watched her, the way she held herself, too still. Her eyes tracked every movement in the room. Her arms, though lean, showed muscle memory. She wasn't just a mother. She'd been something else before. But he didn't ask. You said you were hiding on the lower levels, Aaron said, keeping his tone neutral. For how long? 8 days, she replied. Before that, 2 weeks in the waste channels. Before that, a merchant camp. You escaped. I was discarded. The room fell silent. Ilari didn't look up. She understood more than a child should. Cilia spoke again. They broke a few of us. The rest sold. I stopped being worth the credits. She glanced at her skirt. Too many bruises. Too much talking back. Aaron clenched his jaw. He stood and walked to the irrigation control panel, adjusted the valve pressures. He didn't speak. He didn't have anything useful to say. Cilia watched him work. You live alone, she said. He nodded. You're not afraid someone will find you? They already have, he said, without looking at her. You and her. That caught her off guard. She blinked, then shifted, adjusting the blanket more tightly around her chest. Ilari crawled over to one of the moss beds and pressed her palm against the glass. Why do you grow food if you don't sell it? Aaron answered slowly. Because it keeps me from thinking about everything else. Like being alone? He gave a short laugh. Exactly like that. Ilari pressed her cheek to the moss container. It's soft. Cilia stood, stretched her limbs carefully, then walked the perimeter of the room. She examined the piping, the air ducts, the vents near the floor. You fortified this place, she said. Scrap plating, rewired entry points. Your main door has heat sensors. I don't like surprises. She looked at him. You're not just a farmer. I'm a botanist. She tilted her head slightly. Same thing. No, he said. Farmers grow crops for markets. I repair systems that keep ecosystems alive. This colony was supposed to be one of them. Cilia moved to a shattered panel near the corner, where a cracked vent leaked warm air. Without asking, she began wrapping an old piece of thermal cloth around it to insulate the draft. Her hands were quick, efficient. You could have turned us away, she said. I thought about it. Then why didn't you? He didn't answer immediately. He watched her tie the cloth tight with practiced hands. Because she knocked, he said quietly, and because she asked me to make you smile. Cilia stilled. Then, unexpectedly, she looked away. That was a foolish thing for her to say. She's 5. She's seen more than most women twice her age. I know. Cilia crossed back to her daughter. Ilari, finish your bread. The girl looked up wide-eyed. Are we staying? Cilia opened her mouth, then hesitated. Aaron stepped in. For now, yes. Ilari smiled faintly. I like it here. It smells like leaves. And safe. He crouched beside her, his tone gentle. Ilari, why did you say what you said last night? About me being her husband? The child looked at him seriously. Because Mama's face changed. When she saw you, Aaron raised an eyebrow. Change how? She looked like before. Before the camps. Cilia's voice hardened. Ilari, the girl turned to her. You did. Your mouth got soft, and your eyes didn't look for exits. Aaron stood. His throat was tight, and he didn't know why. Later that day, while Ilari napped in a warm sun patch by the greenhouse wall, Cilia helped Aaron clean the algae buildup from the filtration tank. She didn't talk much, but when she did, it was practical. You need to reroute this vent. It's leaking pressure. I know. You let leak on purpose? It keeps the air damp enough for the moss beds. She gave him a glance of acknowledgement. Not quite a smile, but close. By dusk, she had mended a torn thermal blanket with thread made from stripped wire. She moved confidently, efficiently. She didn't ask permission. She didn't wait to be told. She belonged in motion. That night, Aaron sat near the heater, watching the rain form rivers down the greenhouse glass. Cilia sat beside him, knees tucked up, her back against the vent. She spoke softly, almost too quiet to hear. You should have turned us away. Most men would have. I'm not most men. No, you're not. Ilari mumbled in her sleep nearby, curled up with a fresh blanket. Aaron reached across to adjust it slightly, covering her feet. When he looked up, Celia's gaze was on him. Not cautious, not grateful, just watching. A pause passed between them. Then her voice came low. "If you're not afraid of us, Aaron Vale, then maybe I'm more afraid of you than I thought." He met her eyes. "Calm, steady. You don't have to be," he said. And for the first time, her eyes dropped. She believed him, and that terrified her more than anything else. The next morning began with silence, different from the usual kind Aaron had grown used to. This one felt fuller. Not empty, not heavy, just quieter. He noticed it as soon as he stepped out from the supply closet he used for sleeping. The air felt warmer. The vents hummed low. Somewhere near the moss wall, Ilari's soft breathing could be heard beneath the fabric of her rolled blanket. Celia wasn't sleeping. She was crouched near the aquaponics basin, her hands submerged to the wrists, gently scooping out algae clusters with a cracked filtration net. She didn't notice him at first. Her movements were calm, slow, but purposeful. Her hair was tied back tighter today, cleaner. The bandeau top was re-wrapped higher over her chest. Her skirt hitched more securely at the waist using a strip of plant fiber. She had made choices. Small ones, but they said a lot. Aaron walked past without interrupting, collecting the nutrient paste he'd left to cool overnight. She turned slightly when he passed. "You had tools stored under the bench." "I used the net." He nodded. "It's fine. Looks like you know what you're doing." "I handled aquatics before," she said, glancing at the tank. "At a governor's villa, when I was still allowed to have work. And a name." Aaron slowed. "What does that mean?" Celia hesitated. Her hands drifted over the water. "Before the camps, we had standing. Roles. Families. But once you're taken..." She didn't finish. Aaron didn't push. He grabbed a kettle, poured water, and lit the burner. Ilari stirred not long after, crawling from her blanket, rubbing her eyes. She padded barefoot toward the heater and flopped down beside it. "Mornin'," she said sleepily. Aaron handed her a cup of warm grain milk. She cradled it carefully with both hands. "Did you dream?" he asked. "Uh-huh." She took a sip. "I dreamed Mama was flying. Like in the stories." Celia glanced over her shoulder. "You ever fly before?" Aaron asked, trying to keep the mood light. Celia turned back to the tank. "No, but you lived in one of the central zones?" he asked, testing her comfort. "The way you move, the way you fix things. That's not from scavenge camps." She kept her eyes on the water. "We were assigned to the Rye Prime. My mother was part of the cultural oversight board." "That's gone," she said. "The whole board. Most of the Prime Ring. When the syndicates came..." Aaron's stomach tightened. That wasn't just background. That was history, the kind locals muttered about over low fires. The government retreat. The trades made in desperation. 100 names erased in weeks. "I don't tell people," she said. "No one cares where you came from once you've been bought." Ilari spoke softly. "I remember the room with blue lights. And the cage with the low ceiling." Aaron knelt beside her, his voice careful. "You don't have to talk about that." Ilari looked up. "It wasn't a bad dream." Celia rose. "She only remembers parts. Sometimes I think it's better that way." Aaron stood slowly, watching the girl sip her milk like it was something rare. "You're not planning to leave soon, are you?" he asked quietly, more to Celia than the child. Celia didn't answer right away. "Then, do you want us to?" "I'd rather know if you are." "Why?" "Because I can't fix things I'm not allowed to protect." That froze her. She didn't move for a moment. Then she turned to face him. "We've never been protected. Not without payment. Not without trade." "You think that's what this is?" he asked. "I don't know what this is," she said, voice low. "You gave us food. Heat. Safety. That usually costs something." "It doesn't," he said. "Then why are you doing it?" He hesitated. "Because you're hurting. Because she knocked. Because I've been alone for too long." But none of those answers were simple. Instead, he said, "Because maybe this colony still has a few people who haven't given up." Celia's posture softened slightly, but her expression stayed guarded. She wasn't used to things without strings. Later that day, while Ilari napped again in the shade of the overgrown vine net, Celia helped Aaron repair the eastern wall panel. One of the support struts had warped from last month's acid rain and was letting too much moisture in during storms. They worked quietly. She held the panel in place while he secured it with a power spike. Her shoulder brushed his arm once, just barely, but her breath hitched. He noticed, didn't comment. After a while, she asked, "You have a family? Somewhere?" "No," he said too fast. Then he sighed. "Had a brother. Military. Lost him 2 years ago." She studied him. "That's why you left?" "No. I left because I couldn't watch systems die anymore. Whole ecosystems turn into factories. I was supposed to help them recover. Instead, I helped bury them." Celia adjusted her grip on the strut. "I understand that." He looked at her. "You do." She nodded. "When you're used to creating beauty, being forced to survive in ugliness breaks something inside." Their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them looked away. That night, Ilari curled against the moss wall again, and Celia sat across from Aaron near the heater. She'd taken one of his old work shirts earlier, washed it, trimmed it, tied it around her waist over her usual skirt. It looked like nothing, but it was hers now. It didn't talk much. Just watched the firelight flicker across the cracked tile and condensation drip glass. Celia eventually broke the silence. "I had a bondmate once," she said. "Years ago, before the syndicates came. He died before Ilari was born." Aaron didn't speak. He would have hated this world. "He sounds smart," Aaron said gently. Celia glanced at him, almost smiled. Then she asked quietly, "Do you think a person who's been owned can ever feel like they belong to themselves again?" Aaron looked at her for a long time. Then he reached out and placed a single hand on the floor between them. Not touching, just there. "I think healing isn't about forgetting what happened," he said. "It's about finding someone who doesn't flinch when they see your scars." Celia watched his hand. Then, without a word, she placed hers beside his. Not touching, just close. Ilari's voice came from the dark, soft and half asleep. "Mama, you look like yourself again." Celia closed her eyes, and for the first time in a very long while, she smiled. Just barely, but it was real. By the fourth morning, things had changed in ways no one spoke aloud. Celia had begun wearing Aaron's old field shirt every day, cut and wrapped to fit her frame. She still wore the torn skirt beneath it, but the shirt gave her a layer she chose. Her hair was looser now, not as tightly knotted, occasionally falling across her shoulder when she worked. And she worked constantly, refitting damaged insulation, organizing supplies, resealing vents. Aaron never asked her to. She never explained why she did it. Ilari had stopped sleeping by the heater alone. Each night, she dragged her blanket a little closer to the space where Aaron and Celia sat. She didn't ask permission. She just wanted to be near them. That morning, Aaron stood outside the greenhouse door on the catwalk, scanning the hazy city skyline. The mist hung low, thick and yellow-gray from industrial residue. Far below, on the street levels, voices drifted upward, metallic laughter, the clatter of boots, a cough that never quite ended. His eyes moved slowly from the southern alleyway to the ruined tram bridge across the gap. He felt it again, that subtle itch at the base of his neck, like someone was watching. Celia stepped out behind him. She didn't speak right away, just stood beside him in the damp morning air, pulling the shirt tight across her chest. Her arms were bare, her skin beaded with moisture. "You don't usually come out here," he said. "I heard something last night," she replied. "Footsteps. More than one." Aaron nodded. "I thought I saw a glint. West roof. Same place the scavenger posts used to set up before they got wiped." "You think someone's marked this place?" "I think it's possible." Celia looked out over the silent city. Her eyes narrowed. "How long do we have? Could be days. Could be hours. They don't move fast unless they're sure it's worth it." "What's worth it about us?" she asked. Aaron glanced at her, then looked back over the edge. Word gets around. Someone talks. Someone says a soft-eyed alien woman is holed up with a man who won't trade her. That's rare. Celia didn't flinch. "They'll assume you're keeping me for yourself." He nodded once. "They might." She was quiet for a long time. Then, softly, "Are you?" Aaron turned to her. "No." He saw something flicker in her eyes. Not disappointment. Not relief. Something more complicated. Inside, Ilari was awake and sitting on a crate by the seedling beds, cradling a bruised fruit in both hands like it was a treasure. Her eyes lit up when she saw them return. "Is Mama flying yet?" she asked. Celia smiled faintly and ruffled her hair. Not yet. Aaron closed the door behind them and bolted it. He watched the child for a long moment, then said, "If we have to leave this place." "We won't," Celia said firmly. "You don't know that. I know we're not running again. Not unless we absolutely have to." Ilari looked between them. "Are the bad men coming?" "No," Aaron lied. "Not today. They spent the day reinforcing the west wall." Aaron rigged a motion sensor at the outer stairwell and sealed the lower access vent. Celia reorganized their supplies, rationed the grain stock, sorted thermal blankets by thickness, rewound 2 of the heating coils that had started to fray. That evening, while Ilari slept early under a heat lamp, Aaron and Celia sat in the greenhouse loft, on the raised platform where the soil beds met the window glass. Rain fell again, soft, steady, tapping against the ceiling like a slow clock. Celia sat close tonight, closer than before. Her arm brushed his more than once. She didn't move away. "You've had others come here?" she asked. "No," he said. "Not even once. I built this place so no one would." She nodded slowly, staring at her hands. "Then we've already changed it." He didn't respond. After a while, she said, "When I first saw you, when Ilari knocked, I was sure you'd slam the door." "I almost did," he admitted. "Why didn't you?" He hesitated. "Then, because you didn't ask." She did. Celia gave a dry, tired laugh. "She's braver than me." "She shouldn't have to be," he said quietly. She turned her head toward him. "You know, in some parts of the galaxy, if a man provides shelter, warmth, it means the woman owes him something. I'm not from those parts." "Neither am I," she said. Her voice was lower now. Her eyes didn't leave his. "But I've been through them." The silence between them was heavier now. Not dangerous, just full. Celia moved slightly, adjusting the blanket around her waist. One shoulder remained bare. She didn't fix it. "I don't know how to do this," she said, her voice almost a whisper. Aaron looked at her gently. "Me neither." Then, slowly, carefully, she leaned in, resting her temple against his shoulder. Not for warmth, not for protection, just to be close. He didn't move. They sat like that until the rain slowed and the vents hummed with low heat. And far below, in the alley shadows, a figure crouched behind a broken signpost, watching the light behind Aaron's greenhouse glass. Marking it, waiting. By midday, the greenhouse was quiet but not still. Celia stood near the water pump, her sleeves rolled to her elbows, repairing the algae skimmer with a focus Aaron recognized. Methodical, deliberate. Not a single movement wasted. She wasn't just helping anymore. She was maintaining, preserving, treating the space like it mattered to her. Aaron watched from across the room, leaning on the support frame of a vine scaffold he'd been reinforcing since morning. His hands were sore from wiring, but he didn't stop. The tension from the previous night lingered, like dust in the corners. Not fear, expectation. No new movement outside. The motion sensor hadn't tripped, but the feeling hadn't gone away. Someone had seen them. The kind of people who waited until you were comfortable before showing up. Ilari sat cross-legged by the main irrigation trough, humming quietly while using a cracked paintbrush to clean the moss panels. Her sleeve kept slipping down her arms, too big for her. She kept pushing them up with little huffs of frustration. "I like it here," she said suddenly. Celia looked over. "What?" "It smells like green." Ilari tilted her head. "And like the time before the cage. When you made tea." Celia stilled. Her hand trembled slightly before tightening around the tool she was using. Aaron said nothing. He just crouched beside Ilari and handed her a smaller brush. "Try this one," he said. She grinned and nodded. "Thanks, Mr. Aaron." "You can drop the mister," he said, half smiling. Ilari whispered, "Mama says if I call someone without a title, it means I trust them." He looked at her, surprised. She added, "I trust you," then went back to brushing the moss like she hadn't just said something that punched a hole in his chest. That night, Celia stepped out of the back supply room wearing one of Aaron's field jackets. She had tied the waist with a length of thermal rope, shaping it to her form. Beneath it, her usual skirt, but she'd layered fabric beneath it, tighter, cleaner. She wore it differently now, not to cover herself, not to protect, but because she chose how she looked. Aaron caught her watching herself in the reflection on the greenhouse glass. Just briefly. Then she turned away when she noticed him. "You look warm," he said. She shrugged. "I feel like I'm wearing a roof." "It suits you." That earned a small exhale from her nose. Not quite a laugh, but close. They ate quietly, seated on crates near the wall. The heat vents purred. Outside, the wind picked up again, brushing dust against the sealed glass panes. "Do you miss it?" she asked. Aaron looked over. "Miss what?" "Whatever life you had before all this." He didn't answer right away. Then, "I miss thinking I could fix everything. And now I just try not to break anything else." Celia looked down at her food, tearing off a piece with careful fingers. "I miss having a name that meant something," she said. Not one whispered like a curse. "Your name means something here." She glanced at him. "To you, maybe. To me is enough," he said. She fell quiet, then said softly, "The men who watch from the rooftops. They'll come soon, won't they?" "Yes." "You try to stop them?" "No," Aaron said, firm. "I'll make sure they don't come back." Celia's eyes flicked up. She didn't ask how, didn't challenge him, just studied his face as if seeing something she hadn't expected. Later that night, after Elari had fallen asleep again, curled between thermal blankets with her arms around an old seed sack, Celia moved quietly through the greenhouse. Her bare feet made no sound on the tile. She found Aaron kneeling by a tool bin, sorting through wiring strips. "You should sleep," he said without looking. "So should you," she replied. "I don't like leaving sensors unchecked. I don't like leaving things unsaid," she said. Aaron turned. She was standing very close now. "I'm not offering anything I don't mean," she said carefully. "And I'm not afraid of you." He met her eyes. "Good. But I need you to know," she continued, voice steady but low, "if I stay here, if Elari stays, it's not because you saved us." "Why then?" "Because we finally found somewhere we weren't expected to be grateful for surviving." That silence came again, the full kind, like something final had shifted. Aaron reached up slowly and rested his hand lightly on her waist. She didn't pull away. She stepped forward until their foreheads nearly touched. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. Just stood there, the hum of the greenhouse and the distant wind outside all around them, holding each other in the kind of stillness that only comes when something broken begins to settle in a place. But downstairs, 8 floors below, someone new had entered the stairwell. Boots scraping concrete, moving slowly, pausing, listening. The sensor didn't trip, because this one knew where the wires were. The knock didn't come this time. There was no sound at all. Aaron woke not from noise, but from instinct. He sat upright in his storage closet, his makeshift sleeping space, heart already racing before his eyes even adjusted. Something was wrong. The air felt different. The greenhouse fans were still running, the heater still humming. But there was an unnatural stillness outside the glass, like something was waiting. He moved quietly, bare feet touching the cold tile without a sound. Across the room, Elari slept curled under a thick thermal blanket, one foot sticking out, her arms wrapped around a seedling pillow. A soft whistle escaped her nose with each breath. Celia was not asleep. She stood by the western glass wall, unmoving, eyes fixed on the vent shaft near the irrigation tanks. She was fully dressed. She felt it too. "They're here," she said, voice steady but not calm. Aaron nodded. He crossed the room, retrieved a long metal bar from beneath the water pump, a support strut stripped and sharpened at one end. Not a weapon. Not really. But it would hold a door shut if needed. He walked to the back hatch and locked the top latch into place, then slid the bar through the reinforced rings he'd installed a year ago. Quiet. Methodical. Celia hadn't moved. They knew how to avoid the sensors. "They've been watching longer than we thought," Aaron said. She turned toward him. Her expression wasn't fearful. It was cold, focused. "What do they want?" "Me?" "Elari." Aaron shook his head. "It's not about wanting. It's about control. Anyone living peacefully without permission draws attention. You don't belong to someone. They assume you must be hiding value." Celia crossed to the tool bench. She picked up a coiled length of wiring, handed it to him. We could trip the firelock system, flood the vents with steam. It'll scorch the moss beds, he said, but it'll slow them down. He took the wire and nodded. A faint sound came then, metal scraping concrete. Close. Ilari stirred. Mama, she mumbled. Celia rushed to her side. Chill. It's all right. Ilari blinked, sensing something was wrong even before she was fully awake. Is it the bad men? Celia looked at her daughter and didn't answer. Aaron crossed the room and dropped to one knee beside them. Ilari, you remember what we talked about? About the hiding spot. She nodded quickly. You and your mom are going to wait there. Just for a little while. No, she said quietly, lip trembling. You have to come too. I will, Aaron said. But not yet. Ilari stared at him with wide, damp eyes. You hold her like she's not broken. He swallowed hard. That's because she isn't. Celia met his eyes then, more exposed than he'd ever seen her. You don't have to stay, she whispered. You could run. They're not here for you. They are now, he said. She reached out suddenly and pressed her forehead to his. Just for a second, then pulled back, grabbed Ilari, and slipped behind the greenhouse shelf to the crawl panel hidden beneath the irrigation table. Aaron turned and crossed to the vent. The sound came again, closer now. Boots. 2 sets. Moving slowly, deliberately. One heavy, one light. No urgency. They were confident. He flicked the switch near the fire regulator, rerouting the valve pressure. Then he moved back to the main entry hatch, standing with his hand resting loosely on the pipe bar. Outside, a figure passed in front of the frosted glass, a shadow of a man. Another figure crouched near the vent grill. Then silence. Then a knock. Not the child's knock from days ago. This was slow, rhythmic, measured. Aaron didn't move. A voice followed, raspy, too casual. Heard a rumor. A man up here's hiding an ash-skinned woman. Real pretty, real quiet. Someone said she used to dance for a governor. That true? Aaron said nothing. More footsteps. A thud against the door. Then laughter. You're quiet. That means yes. He took a breath and reached slowly behind him, fingers brushing the steam, trigger wired into the side panel. I'm not here to hurt her, the voice continued. I just need to see her. That's all. She was marked property, you know. That makes her valuable. You can keep the kid. No one want to runt. Aaron's hand tightened on the pipe. I don't sell people, he said. Another thud. Not asking you to. Just step aside. No one comes through this door, Aaron said quietly. There was a pause. Then came metal grinding, one of them trying to force the lower hatch. Aaron slammed the firelock. A hiss filled the room. Steam blasted from the floor vents, white and scalding. Screams erupted outside as one man fell back, crashing into the rail. The other shouted curses, slipping on the wet steel. Aaron braced the door. A second crash, then silence. He waited. 1 minute. 2. He pulled the panel open just a crack. The walkway was empty. Smoke rising. One man limped away down the stairwell, gripping his shoulder. The other had vanished. He bolted the door again, reinforced the latch, then turned. Celia stood behind him, Ilari wrapped tightly in her arms. I told you to stay hidden, he said. I couldn't hear you, she whispered. And I didn't want the last thing I said to you to be a goodbye. He walked over, set the pipe bar down, and reached out. Ilari pushed herself into his chest, her small body trembling. Celia stepped closer, her voice cracking as she spoke. You didn't run. Aaron looked at her, voice low. Neither did you. They stood like that, heat still rising from the vents, the scent of singed air mixing with the quiet sound of Ilari crying into Aaron's coat. Outside, the fog swallowed the stairwell. But they were still here, together, and nothing had been taken. 2 days passed. No more footsteps came. No more voices at the door. The city below remained distant, broken loud, indifferent. But no one climbed the stairs again. Whatever syndicate scout had marked the greenhouse for inspection, they'd backed off. Aaron had made that choice easy for them. The rooftop remained quiet now, but the tension hadn't vanished. It had simply shifted. It wasn't fear anymore. It was something else. A deep, careful stillness. The kind that follows a storm when you're not sure if it's really over. Aaron sat on the sleeping platform, elbows resting on his knees, watching Ilari sort pebbles by color near the moss beds. She was humming a nonsense tune, whispering to each pebble as she moved it into place. She hadn't asked about the men again. Children didn't need every answer. They just needed to feel safe again. She did. Celia stood near the ventilation shaft, adjusting the wind flap she'd reinforced with salvaged metal. Her sleeves were rolled to the elbows. Her posture had changed. Straighter. Not defensive. Not tense. Just present. She caught Aaron watching her. He didn't look away. "You need something?" she asked, brushing silver strands of hair behind her ear. "Yeah," he said. "A second opinion." "On what?" He nodded toward the heater. "Thinking of building a second one, just in case we stay through the rains." She raised an eyebrow. "You say that like it's a question." He stood and walked over. "It was for you." She looked at him closely. "Do you want us to stay? I already built a drawer for Ilari's brushes." Celia blinked. "And I moved the storage crates to make room for a second sleeping space," he added. "You think that's how you ask someone to stay?" "I'm a botanist," he said. "We're not known for speeches." She stepped closer, slowly, stopping only when their hands nearly touched. "And if I said yes?" she asked. "I'd finish building the second heater," he said, "and maybe fix the greenhouse roof. With your help." Celia's lips parted slightly. Her breath caught for a moment. "I'm not soft," she said. "I don't want you to be. I'm not good at warm." He reached up gently, not to hold her, just to brush a lock of hair from her face. His fingers barely touched her skin. "I've lived 5 years without it," he said. "I'd rather learn slowly with someone honest." She closed her eyes. For a long time, there was only the sound of Ilari's humming in the background and the distant buzz of the colony below. Then Celia whispered, "I don't want to be owned. Not by pity. Not by kindness. Not even by safety." "You won't be," Aaron said. "You'll just be here. If you choose to be." She opened her eyes, and she smiled. Not faintly, not sadly, but fully. She laughed, short and warm, a sound she hadn't made in years. She even startled herself with it, one hand covering her mouth in disbelief. From across the room, Ilari looked up and grinned. "Mama, you laughed." Celia turned, still surprised. "I guess I did." Aaron didn't speak. He didn't need to. That night, the greenhouse lights were dimmed early. Ilari fell asleep beneath a blanket stitched by both their hands. Her new drawer held her pebble collection. Her name was written on it in faded black ink, in Aaron's slow, careful handwriting. Celia stood by the window, watching the faint city lights glow behind a veil of drifting fog. Aaron joined her. She leaned into him. He rested his arm across her waist. It wasn't about heat anymore. It was about choice. It was about presence. Celia whispered, "You held me like I wasn't broken. And somehow now I'm not." And from the blanket, Ilari's sleepy voice murmured, "Does this mean you're married now?" Neither answered, but in the morning, Celia was still there, wrapped in the same jacket, smiling to herself as she trimmed dead leaves from the moss wall. Ilari was humming. The heater was burning. The second one was already half-built, and the door remained closed. Not because they were hiding, but because finally they didn't need to run anymore. They were home, and no one was taking that from them. 3 years later, the greenhouse still stood, weathered but alive. The vines had climbed higher across the support beams, curling around rusted scaffolds like soft anchors. The moss beds had doubled in size, their surfaces lush and spongy beneath dappled sunlight filtered through reinforced glass. The air was warmer now, cleaner too. Celia had insisted they build an extra filtration unit after the first summer. Aaron had insisted she design it herself. She had. It was late morning. Ilari, now 8, darted barefoot through the rows of planters, giggling as she weaved between towering sprigs of native grain. Her curls were longer now, braided loosely down her back, bouncing with every step. She wore a patch tunic stitched from cloth and repurposed greenhouse mesh. There was dirt on her cheek. She didn't care. Celia watched her from the south side of the rooftop, where she'd set up a narrow bench beneath the canopy. Her ash-colored skin shimmered faintly in the sunlight. She no longer wore the torn bandeau or makeshift skirts. Her clothing now was practical, strong, a woven wrap around her waist, a fitted sleeveless tunic that left her arms free. One of Aaron's old belts held a pouch of tools at her hip. She moved with quiet confidence, posture tall, shoulders at ease. Aaron emerged from the stairwell hatch, a crate of root vegetables balanced on his hip. His short dark hair had gone grayer at the edges. His sleeves were rolled, arms streaked with soil and sap. He stopped at the sight of the two of them, Celia laughing softly, Ilari pretending to ride a stick like a speeder through the moss rows, and just breathed. He never thought peace would look like this. Celia turned her head and smiled. "You're late." He set the crate down. "You're early. I wanted to watch her play. You do that every morning." "Still not tired of it," she said. He walked over and sat beside her. Their hands found each other automatically, years of quiet habits, forming something that didn't need explanation. "She talks to the plants now," Celia murmured. "So do I," Aaron said. "Doesn't mean they listen. She said yesterday this one's shy," pointed to a sprout barely 2 inches tall. Aaron chuckled. "She's not wrong." There was a long pause. Not awkward, just full. Then Celia turned her head toward him. Her eyes had changed over the years, softer now, not from weakness, but from no longer needing to brace for the worst. "Do you still think about the day she knocked?" Aaron nodded. "Sometimes. Would you change anything?" He looked at her and answered without pause. "No." She leaned in, rested her head on his shoulder. They sat like that while Ilari ran in wide circles, pretending the rooftop was a jungle or a warship or someplace only she could see. The sky above was clear, the first real blue day in weeks. A rare, perfect moment. "I thought I'd never belong anywhere again," Celia said quietly. "Not really. You weren't the only one," Aaron replied. A pause. Then she whispered, "I love this life. I didn't think I would. I didn't think I could." He didn't say me too. He didn't need to. His hand gripped hers gently. The answer was in every quiet task, every new plant bed, every safe night. Ilari skidded to a stop in front of them, cheeks flushed. "Are we going to cook today?" Celia laughed. "That's a strange question." Ilari grinned. "I mean together, with a hot plate. Like last time." Aaron nodded. "We can do that. Even dessert?" "We'll see," Celia teased. Ilari turned and shouted, "Then I'm picking the sweet pods." She took off running again. Aaron looked at Celia. She's never asked about the camps. Not in over a year. She remembers, Celia said. She just doesn't need to carry it anymore. A wind picked up across the rooftop, stirring the vines. They both looked out at the city below, still broken in places but quieter now. Less cruel. Above them, the sky stretched wide and open, dotted with birds nesting in the scaffold beams. It wasn't a miracle. It was a life. And it was theirs,